Welcome to the Indian Express. Commercialization of education has been a talking point for long, with several private institutes often being accused of charging exorbitant fee to offer courses such as MBAs and engineering degrees. A panel set up by the government has finally made some recommendations that seeks to address this issue. I have with me Ritika Chopra to talk more about this subject. Ritika, what are the key recommendations which this panel or this committee headed by a judge, a former judge?
This panel was headed by Justice B.N. Sri Krishna. It's been sort of in the works for about many years now.
Okay.
It finally submitted its report in April this year. We don't know too much about it, but what we finally know now is it has made a series of recommendations on how to prevent commercialization of education.
Okay.
Of course, naturally, it has recommended a series of lots of ceilings for different courses, different technical courses. This would cover MBA, engineering, architecture, applied arts, basically all AICTE approved courses.
Okay.
If I could quickly list out some of the recommendations, the highlights. For the 4-year engineering course, the BTech or the Bachelor of Engineering course, for instance, it has recommended a cap of 1.4 lakh to 1.58 lakh, depending on which city the institute is located in.
Okay.
There are 3 caps actually, depending on whether the institute is located in Tier 1, Tier 2 or Tier 3 cities.
Okay.
Cities are obviously classified based on their population.
Sure.
That apart from recommending caps for different courses, it has said that for students which are enrolled under the foreign student category, you cannot charge more than 3 times the recommended tuition fee. It has suggested that these fee guidelines have to be enforced by the AICTE. It has to come up with the appropriate mechanism to do so. Basically, a lot of private institutes offering technical courses will have to fall in line if these recommendations were to be accepted by the AICTE and the HRD ministry.
Okay. So, what was the methodology used by this committee to arrive at these recommendations? I mean, what all did they consider?
Well, the calculations, if you look at the report, the calculations run into pages, about 20-30 pages. It's really complicated, but the basic guiding principle for these calculations was that the AICTE, which is the regulator for technical education in this country, has some basic norms that you have to fulfill to start a technical course. These norms such as infrastructure, faculty, whatever student-teacher ratio.
Sure.
So, in order to fulfill these basic norms, to maintain these basic standards, whatever costs that an institute incurs, they have factored that in to arrive at these at the upper limit for these courses. That in order to fulfill our basic norms, this is what you need to incur, and hence this is what you should ideally charge. Having said that, it has made an exception for certain institutes of excellence. It has said that autonomous institutes and institutes which have at least 2/3 of their courses accredited by the relevant authority can charge 20% additional tuition fee. That is the incentive for them. That is how they have arrived at these costs.
Okay. So, what do you think? How are these recommendations likely to impact the private institutions if they were to be accepted by the government?
Yeah, I would first want to point that out, that this is a panel set up by AICTE that asked for its recommendations. We have to see whether or not this is actually accepted by the HRD ministry. We spoke to the chairman of AICTE. He said that this report has been submitted formally to the government. It's now up to the government to take a call on this. This committee was formed after the direction of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court had asked the government to ensure that higher education is not commercialized. So till the time your committee comes up with its recommendations, the state governments will control it.
Okay.
Coming back to these recommendations, the implications could be quite sort of wide-ranging. If these recommendations were to be accepted, the top 10, 20 institutes, let's say, offering MBA, would be affected because the cap on MBAs, I think, about 1.5 lakh. There are many institutes which charge as much as anything between 5 to 10 lakh every year. They could be affected. One has to see whether the governments consult these institutes. Having said that, leaving aside the top 20 institutes, if one were to look at all the other institutes offering technical courses, these caps are quite generous. That's what, for instance, we spoke to the former AICTE chairman. He said that if we were to go by the other institutes, which charge way less than this, these caps are quite generous. But we'll have to see how this works out, what view the government takes on these recommendations.
So this has been a talking point for long, and finally some movement appears to be taking place from the government side.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing these details, Rasika. Thanks for watching.